And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, Rowdies fans, and everyone else who is a fan of Tampa Bay. This is James Knowles with RBLR Sports, and I'm here with Leo. How you doing, Leo?
Doing great, man. I'm feeling amazing. 2-0 start the season, back-to-back 3-0 wins, back-to-back clean sheets. Couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, that's a pretty good start to the season, and not only that, but it was your prediction this week that came true. So congratulations, and I'll have to step up my game again.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that. I mean, you get lucky every now and then. I use that old trick of copying the score from last game, which you predicted correctly, but this week it might be trickier than usual. But we'll get into that later as the show goes on.
Yeah, we will definitely get into that. There's a lot to cover there. But beforehand, the Rowdies gave us a good game, as you were saying, a 3-0 win at home against Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. And I just wanted to go ahead and jump into that game. We will get over the recap in a bit, but I wanted to quickly talk about some pregame press conference notes that we had. So I was on the press conference with Coach Neil Collins and our newest striker, Steven Dos Santos, possibly our newest star striker, Steven Dos Santos. And there are a couple quick quotes from here before we move into the recap. There weren't too many injury updates. Jan Ecker was the only one who was possibly going to be back, and he actually did not make the bench anyway, so ultimately it did not come to fruition, unfortunately. And we'll see how it goes this week. But I also asked Steven Dos Santos, he was a former Pittsburgh player, how he has liked playing with the Rowdies, and there were a couple of people asking him if he had any insider tricks that they were going over before the game. He said, for one thing, he said that he likes the Tampa Bay area way better than Pittsburgh. That's a direct quote. He said that he was more at home because he's used to the heat that we've got down here, so fair enough. And he said it was a really nice stadium, one of the best in our league for sure. Another direct quote from him. So, that's pretty cool. I like to just toss that out ahead of time because I think anyone who's been to games will agree that it is one of the better stadiums that we've got in this league.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dos Santos on that one. People who go down to the stadium or even walk by the stadium they just feel the environment from it, and they just really see how beautiful the stadium it is and how beautiful the city of St. Pete and Tampa really is. So I can't peg Dos Santos on that one.
Yeah, I agreed with him when he said that. I thought that it was pretty cool to toss that out ahead of the game against Pittsburgh. So now we'll get into that game, and we'll go through the recap. Unfortunately for the people who weren't actually in that beautiful stadium, the feed into the game was a little choppy, and there was a lot of red screen going on. I'm sure you got that too?
Yeah, man, I was so confused because for the longest I was messing with my TV, like, is it my TV? But then I'm hearing the buttons on ESPN Plus working. I'm like, what is it? Why am I not getting any audio? Then ESPN Plus comes out with technical difficulties and stuff like that, which made it hard to get into that game day mode to get excited for this game. But it took a while. I believe the 20th minute, everything started to get back to work.
Yeah, luckily. I was having a similar situation to you where I was just like, is it me? What's going on? where's the technical difficulty going on here? But we'll get into ESPN Plus and their situation for the upcoming Rowdies game when we move forward with our next game talk. But for now, we'll stick to the Pittsburgh one. We had an unchanged lineup from last week except for two players. Jordan Doherty was out, and he was replaced by Lewis Hilton, who was actually the person that subbed in for him at halftime of last week. And then Leo Fernandez was another one who came on later in the game last week, and he started this one against Pittsburgh, and he was back in his spot at the left. So give me your thoughts on the first half, Leo. How did you see it going with those two switches, with those two changes and everything else staying the same?
I thought these two switches, when I first seen the lineup, I was like, wow, I remember last week I was saying how I would put in Leo Fernandez, but I didn't think that coach Neil Collins was going to do it right away, and he did. And it paid off because obviously he provided the assist for that first goal. But overall, I feel like Hilton and Fernandez did their roles in this game. They both had great games. Had a little bit deja vu in his first half compared to last week because it started out slow. Looked as if the players were in preseason mode again. Yes, they kept possession, but they really weren't doing anything with that possession. And it wasn't until about the half hour mark, the last 15 minutes of that first half, where they started. Passes were quicker, passes were more efficient. They took advantage of the left flank, the right flank. They took advantage of Dos Santos. A hold up play, his strength, and what we seen in this game that we didn't see in the previous game was Dos Santos was making those runs on the flanks. He would run from sideline to sideline, make run in behind defenders, and he would actually run instead of just playing it to his feet where he could hold up a play. He was actually getting more involved in this game, and it paid off when Fernandez, boy, that cross was just amazing. That curve, the pinpoint, and Dos Santos was there to finish it off. So, but yeah, the first half it was slow, a little bit slow. One thing I would say is that the back line, they did superb on handling the high press from Pittsburgh. There was a price about 2 or 3 times where I was like, get it out there, get it out there, get it out there. Like get the ball out, because about like 4 or 5 players from the Riverhounds were just pressuring our back three and our goalkeeper. But they did well to get out of danger. And not only when Laurel, when he didn't only just clear the ball out when the high press was coming. He cleared the ball out, but it was like a long pass to Fernandez or Guenzati or Dos Santos or White Antley. Like he had these long balls and weren't just clearances that you see by goalies when they're getting pressure. Just like, oh, let me clear it. Like, oh, this guy's coming at me. Let me clear the ball. They handled the high press really well. Guenzati was doing great, linking up with other players. And one thing was about Dos Santos that before his goal, he had a nasty clash with midfielder Danny Griffin from Pittsburgh. And it looked very nasty because they were both in the air, involved, as if they're both clashed heads, but didn't seem to be anything serious, obviously, because Dos Santos went on to get the first goal of the game. So that's what I would say about the first half, how it went out for the Rowdies.
Yeah, I agree with just about everything you said. I also had in my notes from that first half, Lasso, strong at the back. He is the reigning defender of the year in this league, and I think it's pretty clear to everyone watching why that was. And I also made a note of Evan Loro, actually. I asked Neil Collins about that after the game, so when we get a little farther along, we'll revisit Evan Loro's involvement. But yeah, the first half was, like you said, kind of slow getting into it. Then the goal helped us calm our nerves, as a goal obviously would. And then we got into the second half, and that's when things really started to gel for us. We really got some good stuff going.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And one thing I like to point out is that Dos Santos did show a respect to his former team. Also, when he scored, no celebration against Pittsburgh Riverhounds. But like I said, he showed his physical presence in that box. An example of that would be when he scored that goal, the defender jumped and he didn't. That's all I really got to say. He didn't jump, the defender did, and he still won the ball and he scored. And just before even the goal, it was a beautiful play by the Rowdies. They started to play in the middle, switch it to the right, then from the right, they switch it to the left. From there, Fernandez crossed it in. So it was like, they were taking advantage of the width of the field. They were going, back and forth, side to side, to make things difficult for the Riverhounds. And in the second half, it was a little scare early in the second half for the Rowdies. There was an early chance for the Riverhounds. A cross came in from the right side, and the defenders were caught ball watching. Luckily, the attacker from the Riverhounds, he made contact with the ball, but it went over the goal. If it was on target, it would have been a goal. It would have been 1-1 because Laurel wasn't nowhere near it. And he beat a defender, Scarlett, to that ball. But after that, Rowdies picked off from where they left off in that first half, and it just seemed as if there was obviously going to be only one winner for this game. Yeah,
I also had in my notes, again, for that one, just Pittsburgh should have scored. Yeah. They really blew their chance on that. I don't know what the game would have looked like afterwards had they done so, but Maybe it was that thing that we mentioned last week where, the Rowdies started their first game kind of cagey, and it's only fair that Pittsburgh starts their first game kind of cagey. But luckily, like you said, it did come off later on in the game. We got that clear penalty off of what actually was it looked like an overhit pass from Seba, and Steven Dos Santos got just a foot to it before the opposing keeper came in and cleared him out. So that was a clear penalty, and then Seba had a great shot that literally no one in the world, I think, would be saving.
Yeah, man, that hard shot down the middle. Maybe if a penalty, maybe if the goalkeeper stays in the middle, maybe they have a chance. But just at the pace with that accuracy, it was obviously going to be Seba's goal from the penalty spot. One thing I do want to mention is that in the second half, we've seen a lot more crosses in the box, a lot more sharper passes in the middle. It looked like everyone was on the same page after that early scare. They were like, "Oh crap, we have to tighten up because if we even lose our focus for a second, this team could punish us." So they were just more concentrated. They were more determined to get another goal. But before that penalty, people's like I'm pretty sure most people with penalties they don't really pay attention to how it led to that penalty. Uh, it was originally a long ball from Lauro, as I mentioned earlier in the first half. He didn't just clear the ball out. He purposely sent a long ball to a player he was targeting towards, and that player was Dos Santos. He shrugged off a defender, and then the ball landed to Gonzalez, who dribbled it further down, and obviously, like you said, kind of overhit that pass for Dos Santos, but he got it just on time to earn that penalty for the Rowdies to make it 2-0.
So that's 2 goals in 2 weeks that come off of some combination play between our two strikers up top. I mean, what more can you ask for? That's the stereotypical partnership of the big man holding play up and bringing more players into it. He can lay the ball off to somebody. Often that person is Guenzati, and then they'll get themselves into a better position. So yeah. I'm thinking, based on this first couple data points that we have, it's looking good for the future.
Yeah, and I think another thing that Rowdies fans should be excited about is that Dos Santos is showing that he's more than just a big presence in the box. He's more than just a hold-up player. He could get in behind defenders. He has a good amount of pace in those legs to get past defenders, as we've seen in this game, where he wasn't afraid to make runs down the line. He wasn't afraid to pass the ball. He wanted to take on players, and he looked like he was having fun. There was a moment in the second half where this man was just juggling the ball with his head like about 4 or 5 times before he eventually got fouled. But I mean, that's like it's something great for the fans to see. I know people think showboating is disrespectful, but he was just having fun. He was really feeling the environment in the second game for the Rowdies. He's just really, really fitting in really well. And I just want to touch on Adebayo Smith. He's the youngest player on the team, 20 years old, comes on the 79th minute and scores in the 84th minute. Obviously that goal, I had a little bit of luck because it's miscommunication in the back between the defender and the goalie. I don't know what the hell was going on there.
I don't know.
Like, I couldn't, if someone offered me $1 million to explain that, I probably would not have $1 million because I don't know how to explain that. I think, but Adebayo kept his focus. He stayed pressuring the defender just in case something like that happens. Maybe it's a 1 in a million chance it happens, but it happened, so he had probably the easiest finish he'll ever have in his young career. But the presence he made on the field, it looked like as if they never subbed off Dos Santos because he was still making those runs. He was, he's young, but he has like a good physique. He could shrug off defenders. He has pace with them. And I think that's what ultimately led to his the third goal, his first goal, and the third goal for the Rowdies for the night.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot of physical attributes that will help him out as a striker. Those ones that you mentioned, and we definitely saw his pace when it got later on in the game after he scored his third goal. There was another should-be goal in this game, and unfortunately, it was for the Rowdies as opposed to Pittsburgh here because I would have liked to have seen Jordan Adebayo Smith get 2 on the first day that he scores, but we'll have to wait a little bit. He got another lucky bounce off of a defender's poor clearance, and that must be something that the Pittsburgh coach was that's something that you just want to put in the rearview mirror and forget about, because the two mistakes that led to those are, as you said, maybe one in a million. The bounce that he got on his final chance, where he ran it all the way down the Pittsburgh half, following a corner that we successfully defended, and he tried to chip the keeper. It would have been a sublime finish, but unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait for a more sublime finish.
He should have took notes from Sergio Aguero from Manchester City to not chip the goalie.
I
To
know.
just to just put the ball. He could have easily rounded the keeper or just slide it past the keeper. But you talk about the counterattack. There was a few times where the Rowdies they looked very dangerous and very scary on the counterattack in that second half. I think most of the time it ultimately led to a corner kick, but it just shows that that turn of pace they got. They could really hurt teams if the opposing team has a corner kick or a set piece close to the Rowdies penalty box and they lose the ball. The Rowdies have the talent, the skills, and the pace to go quickly the other way and grab a goal, or just make the other team fearful of Rowdies going against them on the counter. Um, One thing I do want to mention is Dayon Harris. Another game, another short cameo for him, but he got something on the 83rd minute. But he looks very energetic and speedy as well. Showing how much depth we got on the wings. But he put in a couple good crosses, and it shows that if someone like Antley or Fernandez or Dalgard, whoever's starting between those three, if one of those players get tired, it's not like the intensity is going to drop because these players they bring in the same amount of intensity. Yeah, they're still new, but they bring a lot of pace. They're really good with the ball at their feet, and they could really hurt defenders, especially defenders who are already tired from chasing the ball all game. Because Roddy's had, I believe, 66% possession of the game. 63. I'm sorry, 63% possession of the game. So you think your day's done when a winger gets subbed out, but then that winger is getting replaced by maybe even a faster winger. So it's like your night isn't over yet. And Dayon Harris took advantage of that. He put in a couple good crosses in the box. So it just shows that these new players, they know what the role is in the team. They know how to contribute, and overall, it just makes this Rowdies team very, very dangerous.
Yeah, that's right. The thing that we were looking at based on what Neil Collins was telling us over the course of the couple of press conferences that we've been involved in, he said that he wanted to have a lot of options for creating chances, and we've mentioned a couple already. So when there is a good counterattack, as you said, there's a lot of ability to get good players into a position to score based on their speed to get in the defenders who might be higher up the field. If there is a free kick situation or another type of set piece like a corner kick, those are good chances for the Rowdies to score because we have so much height on this team. And then another thing that we have seen pick up lately, we mentioned Seba Guinzotti and Steven Dos Santos playing off each other and trying to bring other players in. And other players that they're trying to bring in are definitely those wingers that you mentioned. On the left, so far, it's been Leo Fernandez, Sebastian Dalgard, and then on the right, it's been Connor Antley and Dayon Harris. They're all pretty good in these roles. Connor Antley is only getting used to having played this position for these couple games, but he's looked great so far. The way that the Rowdies set themselves up with three in the back, it allows Forrest Lasso to control the ball and give it to either Aaron Guillen on the left or Jordan Scarlett on the right, and they kind of act as the people who are on the touch line on either side of the field, and they can move the ball up the wing. And then those fullbacks that we have, or those wingbacks, I should say, that we have in Fernandez and Antley, Dalgard at times, they will actually push forward as the wingers so that they can get involved and overload numbers up and down whichever side they're on with Guinzotti and Dos Santos. So the amount of ways that the Rowdies have built up to give themselves good options and good chances, I think that it really looks good for the rest of the season. Tell me what you think for patterns of play that you've been noticing over these two games.
I think you also got to point out Dos Santos and Guinzotti, like you said. It's a really two-punch knockout for defenders. You got one striker in Guinzotti who's mobile, shorter, gets the ball quicker, and someone like Dos Santos, who's taller, more physically strong, and someone who can hold the ball up, like you said, to get the other players involved. So I would say, these two players can cause a lot of damage for defenders, and we've seen it today. We've seen it Saturday. I'm sorry, and I think another thing we witnessed is that it seemed as if Saturday the roles were reversed. It seemed like when Zadi was the one holding up the play, and Dos Santos was the one making the runs behind. It just shows that whatever Neil Collins asks for each of these strikers, they're going to perform it and do what they're told, and they did it brilliantly on Saturday night. And it's only two games in. Dos Santos has a goal, Gonzalez has three of the season, and it's like it's only 2 games in. There's still many more games to play. How strong can they really get? And that's obviously a big plus for Rowdies fans, but also a very danger and warning sign for opposing teams.
Yeah, exactly. So, with all of that being said, who is your man of the match? I saw some people on Twitter that had made their statements. I think that I'm mostly in agreement. I want to see what you're gonna say and see if maybe I'm in the wrong here.
Honestly, I think there's only one obvious candidate. It has to be Dos Santos. He was just a menace up there. He really was. From holding the ball up, from the reason why we got a penalty is because he continued making the run when the ball was slightly too much up front for him. And then we seen his goal scored, to show his physical presence, making runs down the line. He just did everything that he was asked for, and maybe even more than what he was asked for. So I think my man of the match will be definitely Dos Santos.
All right. Well, then I guess Twitter was right because that's what they were saying, and that's what I was thinking too. For all the reasons that you said. The only other thing that I had in mind possibly was Evan Loro. He was, as we mentioned, just a wall at the back. He has kept that up from last season. It's a joy to watch him out there because when you're a defender, the one thing that you like, or actually, just moving up the field, the one thing that you like is that if you lose the ball behind you, somebody is there and they're going to be there to kind of save you. Evan Loro is that guy. He was stepping up in a lot of tough situations in that game and this game, in the first game and this second game. But then the other thing that we've seen from him a little bit more is this footwork that he's got. He's making all these passes and he's stepping forward with controlling the passes and the range of play with Forrest Lasso starting it out at the back. I thought that was pretty interesting. So I brought that up with Neil Collins in the post-game press conference, and we'll move into that now. I asked him, first of all, if that was something that they'd been working on and if that was something that they wanted to try to incorporate into their game a lot more. So he said, obviously, as most people who watch soccer around the world will have picked up on, goalies are a much bigger part of the game now. They are supposed to use their feet and be involved in the play, essentially act as another center back who can pass it around, and it seems that Evan has picked up on that. So I thought that was great, and other than that, he said the first half was very controlled. It wasn't too open for the Rowdies to get into specific positions, but then he wanted to see more action in the box, and I think obviously we got that in the second half with the results that we ultimately saw. He also likes the winger options, like we were saying, and having the three at the back so that the three at the back can switch out into those positions that I mentioned and incorporate Evan Loro as another center back who can pass the ball around and play it up to the wings. So, that is what we got in the press conference. But what else did you see? If you have anything else at this point for your tactical analysis.
So it's obviously so far 2-3-0 wins back to back for the Rowdies. I want to ask you, James, do you see anything that the Rowdies should be wary of so far at this point?
Well, right now, I can't say that I've seen something that might trouble them because the teams that they have played were both coming into the season, first game, and, they're probably coming off the preseason that they had that was COVID restricted and all that kind of stuff. It's just a weird start to the season for everybody. Now, when it comes to the next game, that's where we might see some potential issues. I don't know that I would have noticed them in these first two games because of the way that the opponents that we had set up. The next game, that's going to be our toughest one. And
Yeah.
they have a specific setup. So I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the pregame preview. But for now, I can't say that the play that I have noticed would lead me to think that, there are any glaring weaknesses. Is there something that you had in mind that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, it's something very. I'm just being very nitpicky right now. Steinberger seems to like not be at his best. We see players like Dos Santos, Gonzalez, who are already breaking out so early in the season. I haven't really seen that from Steinberger. Maybe he's playing an underrated role this season, an unsung hero role this season. But most of the goals have come from play from White, Antley, Fernandez, obviously Gonzalez and Dos Santos, even the back line. But I haven't really heard anything from Steinberger. Do you agree with me on that, or do you have your own opinion on that?
No, I think actually, now that you bring it up, it's true that he has been a quieter presence on the field than everybody else has. We've had, a lot of involvement from Lawrence Weick, and then a lot of involvement from all the players on the wings and the strikers. You hear their names mentioned every 5 minutes, it seems. But I guess it's true that Zach Steinberger hasn't been as involved, and we'll have to see how that changes, or maybe if another player steps in. I'm not entirely sure, but that
Yeah.
is something to think about.
Yeah, and I also want to mention, I think it's like I said earlier, it's crazy because we talk about the depth this Rowdies team have. Right now, looking at their bench they've had in the past two games and their starting lineup in the past two games. But what amazes me is that the Rowdies really can only get better from here. Lucky is still yet to come back. Juan Tejada is still yet to come back. And you signing Luis Fernando is still yet to make his debut. So, it's, when we talk about winning culture, the Rowdies really do have that. They really have to build off of that. Obviously it starts with last season what they accomplished, but as far as this season, it just shows how much depth they have, how serious they are of regaining that Eastern Conference title again. And if I was an opposing team and all these players, the whole squad is fit, I would be scared facing this Rowdies team.
Yeah, that's one thing to consider, and hopefully when we get into the pregame press conference later this week, we'll have even more injury updates. That
Yeah.
I would really be excited to hear that some more people are back. But
Yeah.
with that all said, I'm going to move into a standings update, if that's all right with you, and give everybody listening a quick idea of where the Rowdies are right now. So we still lead our division. We are number one ahead of Hartford. Hartford have played two games, won them both, but we are ahead on goal differential after our 2-3-0 wins. And the only other reason that we are not first is in the East. Tulsa have played three games, so they are just ahead of us on the schedule, and they have 9 points as opposed to our 6. Nothing we can really do about that. Another quick thing for the standings update, Seba Gonzalez is currently on 3 goals, and that puts him tied for second in the league on goals. One player has 4 goals, and that is Joaquin Rivas, who's also with Tulsa. So, unfortunately, that's something to take into consideration when another team has had 3 games to play. But, yeah, he is tied for second with Santiago Patino over at San Antonio. But, I mean, that's pretty good this early on in the season. And with that all out of the way, the next thing up is our preview. How you feeling about the big game? The big game this weekend.
The unofficial USL Championship match, right?
I would call it official at this point, based on all the
Official.
marketing I've seen.
Yeah, man. I think it's something both fans should be really excited about. It's a like a what if game. What would have happened if COVID did not cancel out the USL Championship? But I'm feeling excited. I think Rowdies fans should be very confident heading into this game. We've seen a lot of what the Rowdies are capable of doing, the depth we have, and so early in the season, you see the new players, the returning players, they're all on the same page. They're all in sync. And it's just, like I said, if I was an opposing team, I would spend a lot of hours in film sessions reviewing how to break down this Rowdies team.
Yep. And the one thing I can say is that our opponent this week has probably done that. So, as we've been hinting at, the Rowdies are going to play the team from last season that we were supposed to play in the USL Championship final, the game for all the marbles. Phoenix Rising. They are coming to town, and they are probably going to be coming here for the bragging rights that they expect they would have won last season, but that all of us knew were rightly ours. Now, Phoenix are also a good team, obviously. They made it to the final, and they are usually a contender. They have 2 wins from 2 games so far, much like the Rowdies. They also have the same goal differential as us. They won their first game 4-1, their second game 3-0. So they have the same goal differential because they are scoring like crazy. They have 2 players on 2 goals after those 2 games, and those are Solomon Asante, the right winger, and Santi Moar, the left winger. So, those 2 up top, and then there's Rufat Dadashov in the middle of them as their striker. That is the top 3 in their 4-3-3 setup. So, Rufat Dadashov has not scored this season, but he was one of the leading scorers in the league last season. And then, like I said, Moar and Asante have 2 each, and they are starting out on a tear. So it's going to be difficult to keep them from scoring again, and that's where our Rowdies defense will hopefully be up to the task. We do have 3 at the back, so the likely idea is that we will be matched up, each player, marking each player, and then hopefully cover for some speed, because I know Solomon Asante has that for days. But that's what we're looking at here. Now, we have gotten a little bit lucky the first 2 games, scored a couple of goals from defensive mistakes or lapses in concentration, like what happened with Jordan Adebayo Smith's goal and should-be goal. Those are a lot less likely. Against Phoenix, they have players who are, at the top of the game at this level, and breaking them down that easily is probably not going to happen. The other thing to note about the defense for Phoenix is that they have a goalkeeper who was the USL Championship goalkeeper of the year last year. Now, last year he played for Louisville, and everyone who remembers from our game against Phoenix, we had to beat Louisville to get there. So we have scored a fair few at this point on Ben Lunt. Whether or not it's going to translate, this is a new season. This is a new team that he's on. I guess we'll just have to see. But I think that we can take a little bit of confidence in that. We were able to slip some by him. And the one other thing that I wanted to mention, there is a player for Phoenix, their right back, Darnell King. He is a former Tampa Bay Rowdies player. He is also a Tampa native. He and I went to high school and played on the soccer team for a little bit at the same time. So that's cool, but I don't think Darnell would remember me from that time. I was quiet and hiding behind a wall of hair. So he was one of our star players. He was actually getting out there and getting minutes, and it's translated into him being a professional, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a great story. It's just unfortunate that he's in the opposing team. So
exactly.
Yeah. Now, if he was for the Rowdies, it'd be even a better story.
I'd love to see him come back at some point, but we'll have to root against him for the time being.
Yep. And for the right reasons, But one thing I want to say is that you mentioned how it might be tougher for us to get goals because we've, some of our goals that come from defensive mistakes. But as far as Phoenix Rising concerns, they should be on a lookout as well that it won't be easy to score against this Rowdies defense. The back 3 has been super solid. We've seen in the game Saturday that each defender contributed in their own way. Guillen did a crucial block. So did Scarlett. Ted Lasso just sacrificing his body, throwing his head into, the air, and just going into challenges, making last-minute tackles. And always, like you said, Evan Laurel just been phenomenal this season with his passing and with his positioning and saves. So, Phoenix should, I feel like they'll be a little wary, or at least let their attacking players know, um, don't expect to score, 3 or 4 goals on this Rowdies team because this defense is very disciplined. They're very strict. They know the roles, and like you said, they might Rowdies might do a man marking tactic to where, right, you cover this guy, I cover this guy, and you cover this guy. So it's gonna be a great game. I think it's gonna be a battle of defenses. We know both teams have star attacking players. We know they have players who could change the game, who can change the game at any moment. So both defenses are going to be tight, focused throughout the entire game, and very disciplined.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be, for last season, it would probably have been, what was roughly the top attacking team for Phoenix against what was probably the best defensive team for the Rowdies. So
Yeah.
this year, I think we've seen a little bit more going forward for the Rowdies, at least in our first 2 games with 2 3-0 wins. And hopefully that means that the playing surface will be a little bit more level when we've got that threat up top. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they try to work it out. And it's a big test for Neil Collins in his very early on in his career, because this was the game last year. And with that in mind, it is on ESPN. Actually, it is not on ESPN Plus. You can see it on the channel this time, and hopefully that means that they will have a feed sorted out so that we don't have to deal with any red screens when we're on national television. That would be pretty bad.
Man.
I think that ESPN would want to avoid that at all costs.
Exactly. It's like, just makes me even more excited as a fan to, if I'm not a season ticket holder, to even be more excited to go back to the games, to feel the environment, to not worry about, have to worry about technical difficulties or anything like that.
Yeah, and with that said, it is also the case now that single game tickets are actually on sale for the Rowdies. So if you do want to go there, I'm sure it's still a limited number, obviously, but it's not just people with season tickets that can get in. So this is the time. But we've done our preview now. It comes down to it. We're going to have to do our predictions. So, Leo, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
You know what? I started the last game. I started the last preview. So if I do that again, I feel like I might win this one again. So I'm gonna start out on this one. I
Okay.
believe, yeah, we're gonna see at least 1 goal each from each side. But I think ultimately the Rowdies will pull a 2-1 win over Phoenix Rising.
A 2-1 win. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to go just a little bit unconventional here. And I'm going to say that it's going to be 3-0 wins in a row for the Rowdies.
Oh wow, he threw 3-0 wins. I like that, James. I like
See,
that.
I think that it's going to start out, you know, everybody's going to be very very close to their net. You know, they want to make
Yeah.
sure that their defense is solid first, and then they move forward a little more slowly. I think the Rowdies are going to get one in, and then as Phoenix try to push forward and they open themselves up more and more, I think that the Rowdies are going to have a lot more chances. I see some, again, like the last 2 games, we're going to have some late goals go in, but it's going to
Yep.
follow an earlier one. That's been a good pattern so far, and I think that we'll be able to carry it over against Phoenix.
Yeah, when you talk about late goals, the past 2 games they scored 2 goals in the last 20 minutes. So the Rowdies know everything about late goals. And like I said, the more Phoenix Rising gets impatient and wants to press Rowdies even more, we have the capability to hit them quick on a counterattack. We have the pace, we have the players. So it might work in our favor if Phoenix is a team that's pressed in our half. We could hit them quick on that counter. So something to look forward to in this game, and maybe hopefully at the end of the game, everyone's doing the dance celebration that El Capitan does.
I love that. I love that. That was
Yeah, man.
that was great. I think that he's been working on something for all these goals.
Yeah.
He knows that he's got to switch it up for all the amount of times that the camera's going to be on him.
Yeah, I might watch that goal several times. Not only for the technique on the penalty, but try to get down the dance celebration.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have everything ready when nightclubs are open up and full
Exactly.
capacity again soon.
Yep.
So, yeah, that is where we're looking right now. And I think, unless you've got anything else at this point, Leo, we might be able to wrap it up for this past week.
Yeah, I think it's just a very very exciting game. This Saturday. Last season's Western Conference champions against the Eastern Conference champions. It's gonna be a hell of a game. All Rowdies fans should tune in. Hopefully, it lives up to the hype. It's a game that from both teams, both set of fans that they really really want to see.
That's right. And, yeah, there is a lot of hype. ESPN has been talking about it, trying to get non-soccer fans watching from everything that I can see. So I think that when it's actually on, regular cable and on the channels, so you don't have to have your ESPN Plus subscription, that's how you get a larger fan base, and I think that this is going to be the game to do it. But, yeah, that should do it for us this week as well. So with that, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for listening, and tune in next week. We're going to have something explosive one way or another. There's gonna be a lot to talk about. So yeah, follow us at RBLR Sports on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter if you'd like at FutureSpur. That is my handle. Leo, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at _LeoSantos___.
All right. Well, if you would please like and subscribe to our podcast. You can get those on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and other major podcast platforms. And again, thank you, listeners. Thank you so much for giving us this chance to spread the word of the Rowdies.
Yeah, thank you, listeners. And as always, man, go Rowdies.
Go Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.